Welcome back. If you're just joining us, don't forget to join the chat room now. We have subject matter experts online to answer your questions live, and also join the conversation on Twitter at MSFT Enterprise and hashtag MSFT Private Cloud. And also, when you get a moment, please complete the event evaluation for a chance to win an Xbox 360 Kinect. So this is a global event. This is happening all over the world. Thank you for tuning in today from countries around the world: Wales, Italy, Portugal, Brazil, Dubai, South Africa, Egypt, Namibia, Canada, of course, the UK, all watching us right now. We hope to answer a lot of questions today. We're going to broaden the conversation right now with more insights from a panel of private cloud experts. Joining us now with Brad, Vice President of Strategic Enterprise Services, Jackie Wright. Hi, Jackie.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. And Chief Executive Officer of Convergent Computing, Rand Morimoto. Hi, Rand.
Hi, good morning.
How's it going this morning?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good. No pressure. The whole world is watching. But we've seen the strategies. We've heard the exciting news from Satya and what's next for you and the customers. I want to dig deep now. Jackie Wright oversees Microsoft IT's enterprise services and platform. Her Strategic Enterprises Service IT organization drives product and operational excellence, agility, and customer centricity across the company. Rand's company has been in business for more than 25 years and helps corporate enterprise and government organizations plan, implement, and support Microsoft's technologies. So let's really dive into customer experiences, how this is working. We saw T. Rowe Price. And Rand, what does Convergent Computing do to help organizations with cloud computing every day, and how does this experience compare with what you're seeing with your customers?
Absolutely. I mean, we're a Microsoft partner. We help organizations plan and implement these technologies, and we've been on the early adopter for System Center 2012 now for the past year and a half. And I think what you saw in the T. Rowe Price video and really their explanation of what's going on is what war customers are seeing as well. On a day-to-day basis, organizations have so many different systems that are available and things that are going on that they're trying to figure out how to be able to really save costs and decreasing the management tools and getting rid of the management systems to manage more and more things to be able to actually drive down costs and increase efficiencies.
Can you give us a couple of examples and paint the picture of the type of customer that you're seeing really benefiting from what you're describing?
Well, interestingly, we have a mix of customers. We have small, medium, and large organizations, and the whole private cloud and the management systems actually addresses all different sizes and different types of businesses. And so what we're finding for these organizations is that there's certain places, whether it's virtualization for some smaller businesses, just to decrease the hardware, or the enterprise customers that are really looking to get rid of multiple tools and consolidate. Really, the platform that Microsoft has been talking about and really what we've been implementing for the last year and a half has helped those organizations meet those goals.
And you can modify for whatever the situation is, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the great thing is that, again, small, medium, large, doesn't matter what
Across industry, yeah.
It's been great, and it's one of those things that has that flexibility. So it's been successful for us to be able to make things happen.
Lots of questions over concerns, or more concerns over questions?
You know, I think it's a little bit of both, from the basis that we have organizations that start off with concerns and then they fall into an area that actually things work. And then on the flip side is we have organizations that are working with the technologies and then they kind of step back and figure out how they can actually make it work better.
Sounds good. Well, Jackie, recently you just joined Microsoft IT, so welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
As a previous CIO and customer of Microsoft, is what Rand talking about similar to your experiences?
Absolutely. Rand touched on it. I mean, you talk about the economic model. What are the cost components? Talk about the readiness of an organization. What are the considerations when I'm thinking private versus public? Data considerations, security, compliance. There's a whole slew of considerations when you evaluate, and lots of CIOs are taking that into consideration.
Can you dig a little deeper into these considerations? Maybe just some checkpoints for people to keep in mind when they're evaluating?
Absolutely. From a data perspective, public versus private. What are the security elements of data? Reliability. Cost components. Brad touched on the cost components. Is my billing model going to change? What are the things I need to understand? How are the costs going to increase or decrease?
So this goes back to what Satya was saying earlier before the break about assessment. Really important to just see what you have going right now. This move, though, does require a shift in thinking. What do you see in that sense, Jackie?
So we're talking about the management of an hybrid ecosystem, an ecosystem where you may have a public or private environment, where you have legacy systems, applications that may sit in multiple places. How do I manage that? How do I govern? How do I consider what I put in the cloud, whether it be public or private? How do I consider how I'm going to manage moving forward in this journey?
So we're getting some questions from the chat room right now. This is coming down. Why did you combine the individual products into a single offering? So anybody want to take a stab at this?
I guess I should take
that. Yeah, you should take that, Brad, since we've been talking about that this morning.
You know, Satya talked about the design principle, and the design, where we design everything is for the public cloud. You know, a big part of the cloud is about predictability, is about simplicity, is about eliminating barriers and friction. You know, one of the resounding things that we hear all the time from customers is the licensing is complex. Simplify the licensing, just make it easy for me. And so, you know, that's what we've done. And you think about when you go to a cloud, you have to have multiple management, you know, what was multiple products. So we brought them all together and then simplified the packaging. Said, listen, if you're going to go to a cloud, literally you can buy this single SKU per server, and then you have the ability to manage unlimited VMs. You know, as we've gone out and tested this and worked with the analysts and a number of customers, we actually get like spontaneous applause on this because it is simple. So instead of having, you know, to have, you know, people on your team who are dedicated to just trying to understand the licensing model from a Microsoft perspective in the cloud, it's just as simple as it's a physical server, that's System Center standard. If it's a virtualized or cloud server, that's System Center data center. And let me just kind of bring it home in terms of how significant that economic model is. You know, it's pretty common that we see organizations that are having, you know, 10, 12, 14, 15 VMs per server right now. That's very, very common. And one thing we know for sure is that the density of VMs every year gets higher and higher. You know, at an organization that has, say, 15 VMs on a server, our price differential to our major competitor VMware, we are 1/16 the cost. They're 16 times more expensive than us. And I would argue we're delivering a much greater overall solution with all of System Center. And you can scale that and use it as much as you want to on your server, and your costs stay the same.
So, Rand, I'm sure cost is one of the top questions that you get. So yes. Any reactions to what he's saying right now, given your experience with customers?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that organizations are trying to do is drive down costs. What we found with System Center, and really what we found in management for most organizations, they're running 5 or 10 different applications right now anyways. They're not using them very efficiently. They have a lot of expenses applied to them. And by going to a platform where they can manage their host servers, their virtual servers, their applications, their operating systems, their infrastructure, they've been able to actually drive those costs down. So we have actually, and gotten rid of 5, 6, 7 different tools as part of the process. So the cost offset there actually has been significant.
Is this a bottom line decision at its heart, or really is this idea, there's a bottom line consideration, but we know we need to go there? A little bit of both, maybe?
I think it is a little bit of both, because I think a lot of organizations are finding that the challenge they have is there's so much they have to manage, and the past has been go out and buy the best of breed tool for every single product. And that's how organizations ended up with 10 different tools. I think what they found now with System Center 2012 is that here's a product that actually does a lot of things extremely well. And so by going through and chipping away at their management structure that they have today, they can decrease those costs and really consolidate and make a total solution.
And we're hearing a lot about this, the steps we need to take to go on this journey to the cloud. And Jackie, I know that this month Microsoft published a CIO Network article about the need to realign the workforce in order to best serve customers. And this is your article, right? So what kind of organizational and skill changes are required for an IT organization to make this transition? Do you have to move people around? Do you have to reduce anything, amp up anything in terms of people and products?
So I think there are a couple of things. There's a thought around we're managing a service, and a service along, again, a whole ecosystem, and an environment where it's integrated, where you have to understand the effects of performance, scalability, agility. So the employee themselves, the IT employee, has to understand that. They also have to be able to govern and talk about, when I'm thinking about this service that I am offering to my clients, what are the components I need to put together? If there is a problem, where do I go? Who do I go to? If it's a service provider, what is the service provider going to do? So when you think about the employee, the IT employee, really it's about a set of services, suite of tools, integratability.
And so training is a huge part of this. Learning ability is a huge part of this. Can you talk a little bit about that, how long that process takes? Once you get the systems in place, you have a people component to be concerned about.
Yeah, and the components span 3 different areas. Training, understanding the cloud services, tools and products. Training in how you go to market, how you interact with your customer and your client. And then training to the point around interoperability, performance, reliability, all of those things.
And so is there generally some resistance, though, Rand, that you see with your customers, or people just say, hey, I'm in, let's go? I mean, it's probably a little bit of both.
It's that fear factor.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of the change is one of those things that customers are afraid of making those changes. And really the confusion over the last couple of years of cloud and everything that you've seen has been cloud, cloud, cloud. And I think that confusion leads to concerns. Really what it comes down to, though, is, and what we're finding for organizations when they really get settled into a good private cloud strategy, is when they sit down, look at all of the different systems that they have, and then sit down and look at a tool like System Center 2012 to be able to say, I have a tool that can actually meet my business needs.
Are people understanding the difference between public and private cloud?
I think there's a better clarity today, and a year ago it was very confusing of what is private, what is public cloud, and where it fits into the organizations. But I think organizations today are finding that they better understand it, and now for those who don't have a good strategy are now fearsome of, wow, now I just increased my capacity that I have to address the private cloud and the public cloud in my internal data center. But when they get the arms around it, it actually is something that they can handle.
Well, it's like an aha moment, or a light bulb goes on, or something like that, right?
That is key, right? that part of...
Sorry, I stole an Oprah phrase, didn't
Yes.
I? Okay, so I had a question here from the chat room I wanted to bring in because it's exactly what you were talking about. Someone from the chat room said, how should I think about which to use, when private or public cloud in this hybrid world? So anybody?
I'll take it, I can take a stab at it in terms of how we from the design principle, but, in many ways, I think you're actually probably the voice of the customer we want to hear more than anything. To me, I think that long term, the destination the industry heads towards is the public cloud. If you read the book, The Big Switch, it gives a great example of the turn of the century and how power was generated and how long it took for organizations to start consuming power that was consumed by these large power plants rather than having their own power plant. And I think more than anything, that example applies very well in this world as well. There are some organizations who are very comfortable with the public cloud and are comfortable moving that out. What I would encourage people to do is, ask yourself the question first and foremost, can I move it to the public cloud? If you can, move to the public cloud, because the economics long term are just massive compared to running it in your own data center. If there are reasons why you have concern, maybe you have some regulatory reasons why you can't do that, run that in a private cloud, but then bring it all together with System Center and give yourself that opportunity to make the decision, what's right for you, be flexible, and then if the time comes you want to move either private to public or public to private, you have that with System Center. But I would say ask yourself the question, can I move it to the public cloud? Are there reasons why I would not? And if there's not, go to the public cloud as your first point.
Go ahead.
I think that most customers look at this as a journey, to your point. And I think when you think about the considerations, you ask yourself, is this a mission critical application? If it is, what are the considerations around mission critical? To your point around data, regulatory, whether it's secure, whether it's private, what types of data. Then you think about transaction processing, high volume, low volume transaction, and should I do that? So I think there are various considerations along the journey whether a client is comfortable in moving their data to public or private and their environment.
It sounds like you want to say something here.
No, well, along that whole line of the private and the public cloud, the key is to be able to manage both. And it's not just going through and saying, I want to go private or public. It's a matter of if you have the comfort level to say, I can manage the tools, I can manage my applications, I can manage my servers no matter where they are. And that kind of starts with the whole private cloud and the System Center family, is that I'm now able to actually go through and I don't care where the data is. I don't care where the systems are. I can go through and handle it.
Well, that feels really good to hear about these things, but I know that more people are also asking more questions about cost and benefits and bottom line. So I want to take a question from one of our viewers via link. You guys ready for it? Okay.
Hi, I'm Pete Raustein with Group Health in Seattle. And my question is, we've already deployed to the private cloud, and we're looking for strategies or recommendations on how to further leverage that investment.
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Maybe more than millions. We're in the billions now, maybe.
Well, the return on investments is organizations are putting a lot into management tools. They're putting a lot into their systems. I think over the last couple of years, we've seen organizations virtualize everything, and they've seen a decrease in costs from physical to virtual. But what they haven't seen is all of a sudden you have the server sprawl. And they finds it so easy to be able to build new and more virtual guest sessions, but they're not putting anything around it. And so the way they get the return on investment is to be able to get their arms around all of their different servers, monitor them, patch them, manage them, be able to go through and be dynamic in how you can handle that. And when they get the handle of it, that's when the return on investment shows up, because now they can actually measure what they're spending in the way of monitoring. They can determine whether a guest session is being used. And that server sprawl where they may be able to cut back 20, 30% of the systems just because they know that 20, 30% of the systems are being used.
Go ahead.
And the key is about understanding consumption and usage.
Absolutely.
So understanding your consumption, understanding your usage, and to your point, System Center making that easy from a billing perspective, understanding that enables that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and
Jack,
if
go
I can just
ahead.
add one thing. You know, one of the most common questions that I hear when I meet, with a senior leader from my company is, how do I take all the knowledge that exists inside of Microsoft, whether that's in support or professional service or the engineering team, and get that to my teams? Yeah, and I think one of the new capabilities we have inside of System Center gives a really good, indication of how we think about this and where we're going to move to, but it also shows this connection with the public cloud and the private cloud. So one of the new capabilities of System Center is what we call Advisor. And what Advisor does, Advisor is entirely built on Azure, so the entire system is built upon our private cloud infrastructure, but it brings configuration data from our customer servers and our applications up into the cloud. We then have a constant feed that comes in from our services organization of things that they're finding around the world. And so, for example, here's a good example I talk with customers about. We could find an issue on a server in Melbourne, Australia. Put that into the system, then look at the configurations of all the servers around the world from our customers and actually proactively notify them of issues before it actually impacts them with a recommendation on how to address it. And it's a great marriage between private and public because all the data comes up into the public where we are then able to do all kinds of analysis, but then we can actually proactively notify customers before issues happen with servers and applications in their private cloud. And it's a wonderful, that's called the System Center Advisor.
So with all of this going on, and back to your point also, Rand, how quickly, Jackie, will we see these cost efficiencies per customer? It's variable, I understand that, but kind of give us an idea. How fast is this process?
So Microsoft, what I do is, I am Microsoft as my team is we do first and best, and we basically dog food Microsoft's products. And what we've seen, we've moved 50% of our production, development, and test environment into the private cloud. We've seen greater than 50% savings in our costs, our server costs, and we've also seen savings in our management costs.
And this is considered one of your best practices for your team,
Absolutely.
right? Do you have some other best practices that you can share?
So I touched on the evaluation of the journey and how you take that journey. And when we think about it, we look at two components, the business readiness and the technical readiness. So whether your data is, I kind of touched on it before, whether your data is mission critical or not, whether your environment is high volume, low volume, what is the reliability, the security components. These are some of the things that we use when we develop our framework to go into the cloud.
We have another link question I'd like to get to, so can we see that?
This is Vince Kellen from the University of Kentucky. A question I had has to do with access to the cloud. We're in an environment in education where we have students coming in with lots of different devices from lots of different vendors, lots of different types of interfaces. What's Microsoft's perspective on supporting the diversity of consumer products as they access cloud?
Such a good question. This is the end-all be-all question of the consumerization of IT. So, Brad, do you want to have? I think you were very smiley about your daughter's cell phone. So.
Yeah, so I actually tell people I've got the best job in the company because I get to straddle what we're doing in the cloud, and I also get to straddle what we're doing in terms of device and desktop management, and really enabling organizations to embrace the consumerization of IT. So, not only today are we releasing into the release candidate of System Center 2012 for the private cloud, but we're also releasing the most significant release of our desktop and device management solution, System Center Configuration Manager, that we've ever done. Okay, so there's two main things that I would tell this viewer in the world about. One, we've completely changed the model, and instead of having the device at the center, everything that we've done now has the user at the center. So now IT can put policy that says, here's how I want to enable my users to be productive across all their devices. And so now in System Center Configuration Manager, we support the configuration of Windows like we've always done, but Windows Phone, the Apple operating systems, Android, and so all these consumer devices that are now coming in, IT can now set policy that applies to all those devices. And the policy is all centered on the user. And the whole product is about making that user productive and having the system intelligently deliver to them the applications based upon the device that they're working on.
Because so this might be, Jackie, the ultimate idea of management, because people are just going to bring in their devices. They're going to say, I want to use this, and this is all I want to use, because they want their home and their business in one. Nobody wants to carry around 5 devices for work and home as well. So is this the bane of the IT person's existence?
Absolutely. Okay. When the CEO comes to me and says, Jackie, I'm using this mobile device and I need this on the device immediately.
And you go and you say, oh my goodness, I have a headache.
I turn around and say, be right there.
Good answer. So, and Rand, is this what you're seeing as well with your customers? I mean, they're bringing in everything. It's just what it is.
It is, and I think that's really what we've seen in the 2012 release of the products is that there's better support for a variety of different, whether it's hypervisors, VMware or Zen, in addition to Hyper-V, or then the mobile devices, the tablets that are out there, and the ability for us to be able to say, you don't have to have 5 different products to manage all these things. Come set up and implement System Center 2012. We can be able to go through and implement these the technologies to be able to do the patching, the updating, the monitoring of all of these different devices.
Who needs to sweat all that stuff?
Well,
nobody, right?
That's how you lower the cost, is you
Yeah.
decrease the cost by going through and managing everything with a single platform. And it also helps, as Brad mentioned, the compliance aspects of it, is that you can't have a single policy when you have 5 different tools and 5 different policies managing these different applications.
Perfect. All right. Well, we have a chat room question coming in. Also, Brad mentioned that managing hypervisors, customers have mixed heterogeneous environments. So how does the MS Private Cloud address this?
Yeah, so let me just take that, and I'll talk about it from an architectural perspective. So from the ground up, one of the things we talk about with the differentiators for the Microsoft Private Cloud is we actually say designed to be hybrid from the ground up. So inside of System Center, literally, we've separated out the logic from the underlying hypervisor. And so what that allows us to do is we build all this rich logic and capabilities, and then we have a provider model. So there's a provider for Hyper-V and one for VMware and one for Zen and one for Azure. And we can add additional virtualization infrastructures in there. But it just gives us the ability to be able to bring all these different hypervisors together. And we've done it in a way that not only can we just, support multiple hypervisors, but you could take capacity from multiple hypervisors and bring it together in a single private cloud. And then the system is intelligent enough to know that if you're going to move a VM, from one server to another, it's intelligent enough to know which servers it can direct you to or automatically do that based upon our knowledge of the hypervisors. So literally, we have designed it from the ground up to be multiple hypervisors. And this is a unique position for Microsoft, because now in our battle, in the competitive battle that we have with our main competitor, we're the heterogeneous provider and they're not.
Well, clearly, Brad is excited about this topic and all the possibilities involved. In terms of excitement around this, and you think about, Jackie, with you think about what we couldn't do 5 years ago versus what we can do now. Give me an idea of where you sit as you look over and you preside over this really critical piece in IT.
So I think 5 years ago, I would go and talk about what application I'm putting where. I'd go through a long life cycle. I'd analyze my environment. I'd analyze where I'm going to put it, what server. I'd have to go out and talk to the operations folks about where I'm going to put it. Today, I'm going to scale up very quickly. I don't care where. I'm going to have a self-service process where I say, I want to scale up today. Tomorrow, I may want to scale down because this environment's high volume this month, but next month it isn't. And I don't care. I don't have to worry about the volume stats around the transactions today because my environment is scalable. So fundamentally different in terms of how I think about how I'm going to build up an environment, application, etc.
And so, Brand, for you, when customers hear about this entire process and they actually go down this path of the cloud, and then it's working like you just described, is it just, I can't believe I didn't do this a little bit sooner, or what's the reaction?
Well, I think that everybody likes to be able to go through and have an end result that's successful. And really part of the evaluation process is to be able to test it, put it in place, try it against the different tools and management platforms that the organization has, and make it do the things that they want it to do. And so, yes, it is one of those, wow, this actually works.
All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for being here. Jackie, Rand, Brad, nice to see you still hanging around. Encourage your teams to evaluate the Microsoft Private Cloud with the new System Center 2012 RC. Conduct an assessment of your current infrastructure and its readiness for the transition to private cloud. Download a white paper and find out about the training and learning opportunities Microsoft is providing to help your teams start today. All of this is explained on the Microsoft Private Cloud website. Up next, we experience how Microsoft Private Cloud helps us take on challenges and adds efficiency to productivity. Be sure to stay tuned to see the Microsoft Private Cloud in action through the Microsoft Technology Center. That's coming up next. But now let's take a look at some quick comments from one enterprise betting on the Microsoft Private Cloud today, Lufthansa Airlines.
As one of the leading IT service providers for the global aviation industry, Lufthansa Systems has a very complex IT infrastructure to manage. We are now moving to a private cloud model, which allows us to manage this complexity more effectively and ensure that we are providing the best service possible. We expect to see our management tools acting as the umbrella over the whole infrastructure across multiple divisions and platforms. The Microsoft Private Cloud works across these platforms and help bring them together. This will enable us to automate and control many key processes, making us more responsive to our customers' needs. Lufthansa Systems has already deployed Windows Server with Hyper-V, and we have 1,500 virtual machines in production today. We are already using System Center to give us deep insight into our infrastructure. By moving ahead with System Center 2012, we expect to expand our capabilities and achieve deeper application insight. This is what ultimately matters, our applications. Plus, with all the pieces of System Center 2012 working together, we get all benefits and a complete platform view with the best economics. Our goal is also to include public cloud infrastructure along with our highly managed private cloud. We expect that Windows Azure will be a key part of our strategy, and System Center will allow us to manage our applications across these environments. It is clear to us at Lufthansa Systems that the cloud model is the key to our IT success in the future, giving us the foundation to seamlessly expand our infrastructure.